will you lead us in the invocation pledge?
Thank you, Mayor. Dear Heavenly Father, we bow our heads before you this evening to thank you, Father, for the time we have to come together and to make the decisions that are necessary, Father, in leading our community. We ask, Father, that you will give us the wisdom to direct our ways through what we have before us. We pray, Father, that you will follow us all as we go through the remainder this evening. Lead, guide, and direct us in the way that you'd have us. Forgive us where we fail you. For it is in your name we'll give you all the praise, honor, and glory. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be self-explanatory and will be enacted by the council with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Approval of the consent agenda authorizes the city manager to implement each item in accordance with staff or board recommendations. Currently, you see items 1 through 4 under the consent agenda. We'll take item 4 off the consent agenda. So the consent agenda will consist of items 1, 2, and 3. Anyone else have any comments on the consent agenda or any discussion? Seeing none, please, Ms. Reese.
I move to approve the consent agenda consisting of items 1, 2, and 3.
Mr. Sutton.
Ask for a second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda consisting of items 1, 2, and 3. Any further discussion? Please register your vote. And that is unanimous. And that reminds me, Mr. Dale Clark is absent tonight. He's still under the weather. He is getting better. Our prayers are with him, but he's absent again tonight, sick at home. Item 4, erosion control improvements. This is consideration and interaction of authorizing professional services agreement with, how do you say that? Diot Engineering for Big Fossil Creek erosion control improvements. Tom, you want to say a few words?
Before I start, just wanted to let the gentlemen that were here for the 2 second readings of the ordinances, you were approved. So if I don't point that out, you guys end up sitting through the meeting and you wonder what happened. So they took a vote, you guys are approved. So you guys are good to go.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
We just whizzed that by you, yeah. It was a high fast one.
Sometimes with that stuff, it just sneaks right on by them. So anyway, erosion control improvements. You're welcome. You're welcome. That kid's got to be very happy to get out of here. He just doesn't know what a favor we did for him. We've been here second and fourth Monday nights every month for the last 6 months talking about issues as they relate to the north side of town. And while we've kind of had a plan to deal with the Skyline Banner area, we've grown in frustration with how to deal with Big Fossil Creek and the lack of assistance that we've gotten. Very sympathetic, and everybody's been trying, but it just kind of doesn't fit a need to where a lot of folks can come up with some help. As the erosion happened on those the storms back in June and continued in July and August, the erosion kind of continued on and is probably still kind of creeping. It's been a while since I've been out there, but I'm assuming it's still kind of going. And at the risk of sounding callous to the homeowners, the action that I've recommended and that this council is going to be considering is frankly to preserve the infrastructure that we have up there. The streets, the water lines, the sewer lines, the storm drainage lines. If we sit back and do nothing because we don't have an ability to do it or a legal ability to do it because of the private property issues, then I think the erosion is going to continue, and at some point we will be stepping in to have to do something to correct it. And I think if we wait for that, it will be exponentially more expensive to deal with it for the city. My preference is, and I believe a lot of the council members up here, is to let's try and tackle the problem now and see what we can do. Now, what I've negotiated with Dodd Engineering is engineering a solution. There's various different solutions that could be applicable to this. And in my cover memo, you saw where I listed, 3 different things: concrete walls or segmented blocks or gabions, and there's more to it than that. And I don't mean to have a preconceived idea, nor does Mr. Diott have a preconceived idea of what he's going to be doing, because you need to do the surveys, you need to do the geotech work and see what the lay of the land is for that to happen. But we are going to be looking at all options for that, but the resulting product is going to be a design to mitigate the erosion issues that are there. Is it going to be anything we do is not going to be 100% fixed. Nothing we do probably is going to be 100% fixed, but I think it will. I'm confident it will make a vast improvement in it and make those properties up there. It'll protect them and make them livable. Even the Caraway home, I'm anticipating. I'm hopeful that it will be that. The contract that I'm asking the council to consider tonight is to initiate that. We should have something finished by spring with, and then we'll go with the next phase about if we do something, how do we go about paying for it? How do we go about doing it? But I can't. Most projects that we do in government, you kind of come up with identify the project and you give a best guess estimate of what the project's going to cost. And the figures I've been using is a huge ballpark for the last 6 months, 2 to 14 million. That's not even a ballpark. That's like a whole state. It's just a huge area. But it all depends on what process is used. And I don't presume to know what the process is, and nobody on my staff presumes to know what the process is. That's what Mr. Dodd and his firm are going to be helping us determining what that process. I'm more interested in engineering the best process, and then let's see what that's going to cost, and then we'll deal with financing issues later. I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful it will be at the lower end of that $2 to $14 million range. Is what that's my expectation. But being realistic, I really just don't know. I can't say with certainty that it will be. But that's what Dodd Engineering is going to help guide us through. In this process, our attorneys are already drafting right-of-way, right-of-entry agreements to deal with the homeowners, and I'll be sitting down with the property owners very soon. Not quite ready to get there yet. I'd like to have these agreements kind of ironed out to where we can discuss them with the property owners, but the agreements will need to be executed prior to us starting anything to enable the engineers and the surveyors and the geotech guys and anybody else that's needed to be used for this to give them the legal access to that property. And we'll certainly have every consideration of the homeowners that are up there, but these are agreements that we're needing to get. So we'll execute those. In my cover memo, I also talk about a public-private partnership, and that's still something that's probably going to be better defined at a later date, really kind of depending on what the on what the course of action that we're going to take. But it's going to be the property owners are going to need to have probably some buy-in to it, physical buy-in, whether at a minimum, probably giving us easements. It could include donating property, participating financially to some degree. That still needs to be determined at some point, but I think those types of issues are going to need to be needed for us to continue with this spending the public dollars on private property. But that's a dynamic that'll still be sorted out. I'm more interested in, let's get the ball rolling on what the possibilities are and what we need to do, so that then we can make some informed decisions, hopefully very soon. I'm not real sure what else I can add to that.
Let me interrupt you there, Tom. And I erred here. I need to tell you that Councilman Sutton has provided an affidavit providing notice of potential conflict of interest, and is going to recuse himself. Is that correct, Jim?
That's correct. I'm going to be voting to abstain.
Okay. Well, if you're going to recuse yourself,
I think the affidavit says that I'll be abstaining.
Okay.
Not a recusal, but an abstention.
Mr. Attorney, can you help sort this out? Normally, if I don't know what the conflict of interest, whether that causes someone just to abstain, or if that is cause for recusal, which is basically to leave the room.
What we recommend normally, well, let me start. The statute says that if Mr. Sutton has a conflict, he files an affidavit and abstains from participation in the matter.
Okay.
We often recommend leaving the room so that there's no question, but it's not absolutely required as long as you take no participation in the matter.
Okay.
Does that include, there's a button here that's labeled abstain. I was assuming that I would need to push that button during the vote.
In my opinion, that would be participation. I would recommend against any participation at all.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, then, I'm fine with leaving the room, but may I make a statement?
I would recommend against it.
I recommend against it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Okay.
Does he need to leave the room, or that's what you're recommending?
I'm recommending it. It's not absolutely
Okay.
required. I recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you.
But you're going to be needed later on, so don't go too far. You're going to be needed for executive session, so you can't go home.
Okay, Tom, I think you had made some pretty good opening introductory remarks, and I apologize for.
That's all right. I noticed while you were talking, I noticed one thing I do need to to comment on, and that is the drainage fund will be initially funding this design process. But I have every expectation to bring a reimbursement resolution to y'all in the future to reimburse the drainage fund for any design costs from any future debt issuance that we may do in this issue. Okay. But right now, the drainage fund will be funding this. Okay. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions from the dais from what Mr. Muir said? I just want to add my comments, Tom. I think you articulated pretty well my position as well. This is an opportunity for some leadership by this council. This is what we were elected for. When there are no good choices, and there are no good choices here, then we have to take what we have before us and deal with it as we deem appropriate. in the best interest of the entire community. And I certainly believe that there's ample evidence that the erosion is bad. I don't see how anybody could argue that, and that it is continuing, and that the cheapest and most efficient time to deal with it is as soon as we can. And I believe that this is a first step that is appropriate and necessary for doing that, and I certainly support it wholeheartedly. I'm going to go ahead and open it up now. Ms. Branson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to be sure that those that are watching at home and in the audience are with us on the same page. What we're voting on tonight, though, is to go ahead and ask the city attorney to enter into an engineering agreement. It's not to determine what's going to be done, what type of public-private partnership we may be entering into,
Absolutely.
or any of those things. This is entirely just to have an engineering firm review what damage has been done, what damage may be forthcoming, and to look at our infrastructure as well.
No.
So we are not making any determination as to the outcome. We are simply information seeking with this action.
You
No,
want to correct it?
that is not correct.
That's not correct?
That's part of the components, but he will be designing a fix, a correction for
So-
what is needed.
So this does include the correction.
Yeah,
And will we be voting on accepting that correction, or is this it, whatever they decide?
It will not be
is it?
coming back to a vote. The vote would be for any other, if you decide to award the construction project or anything like that, that voting, awarding that would be your acceptance of it. It will come back to y'all to have, just like we do any other project that we undertake. This is to engineer the correction to the erosion. This is not an analysis of our infrastructure.
Okay, so I totally have misunderstood
Yeah.
then what we were entering
No,
into
we're-
tonight.
we
Because
are
I thought we were agreeing to I don't like to use the word study, but we
No,
were
it's-
agreeing to an investigation of the problem, and then that we were going to see what the potential solutions were going to be.
He is going to be looking at all the potential solutions, and he is going to be designing what he feels is the correction. He's not entering in this with a preconceived idea that he's going to be using concrete walls or
Right.
gabions.
So are we sort of writing a blank check with this then?
No.
I mean, okay, so I'm still confused.
No.
So work with me here. If we pass this, and basically what I thought I heard you say was that he will have the recommendation, and that's what we will be going forward with if this passes by the council.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know what kind of dollars we're talking about ahead of time?
He will make those estimates in his,
But he
But-
ca- he
but
can't, he can't proceed. He has no money. He has $178,000, and that's for the study. He can't proceed with actual construction until we give him some money.
But what I thought I heard Tom just say was, we're approving what he decides is the best plan.
no,
No?
we're approving
Okay,
a
I'm still
contract.
confused.
We're approving a contract with him to do the work, to do the design, to do the evaluation and design of a fix to the erosion, to improve the erosion. Okay, I hesitate to use fix because I'm not sure anything's really going to be a fix with erosion,
Right.
but to vastly improve that, mitigate it to a degree, okay? It's, out of the different options that he's got, in his professional opinion, this is a professional services contract,
Right.
he's going to be selecting a process that needs to happen. And the staff's going to be heavily involved in this as well. But once that design is completed, then the next part would be, okay, council, this is what we think it takes to fix it. This is what we think it's going to cost to fix it. What do you want to do?
Is it going to be an either or is it going to be for the sake of conversation, we can hope $2 million would fix it, but let's say it takes $20 million to fix it, and we've approved this.
We'll know that ahead of, you mean, all we're doing is approving an engineering
Okay,
contract.
let me ask my question then a different way, because I'm still confused. I thought I thought that I just heard you tell me that if we approve this and he gives us a solution, that's what we're going with.
We have a decision then to make. I guarantee if he comes back with a $20 million
just told me
solution and
no.
that's all there is, we're gonna have to look real hard at that before we start jumping
Because
on
I thought
that.
Tom told me that
That's-
when I
that's-
just asked it,
that's a new
if it
ball
was going to
game.
come back to us,
Okay,
he said no.
when I presented it initially, I probably did present it that way, expecting that whatever the solution is, I have high expectations it's going to be something we can grapple with and deal with. That's not going to be 20 million or the high number.
But it could be.
It could be. If it's going to be floating that way, I'm going to know pretty much way ahead of time if it's going to be floating that.
Okay,
that way.
so in my mind then, just so that I'm straight, because you really got me confused when the mayor came back with something other than what I thought I heard you say earlier.
Okay.
We're going to vote on this. He's going to come up with his proposed solution. You all are going to be actively involved, and you're going to know the dollar amounts prior to that time. Then it's going to come back to the council to determine how to fund the resolution.
Or not.
It will come back to the
Yeah,
council to
there
decide
are other
if we are
options
going to
besides
fund the solution or
engineering.
not.
Yeah, there are other options besides, there truly is the option of doing nothing.
So it will come back to the
I
council to
don't,
decide
I don't
if
want
we're
to do
going
that,
to
but that's an
fund it.
option.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
We can just walk.
Well, no, well, I understood you say you're going to be evaluating what he came up with and then picking whatever
Well,
he
and
recommends.
that's what I
and that's-
initially thought based off our conversation
And-
from Tuesday night.
Right, and this body is not in a position to be determining
don't
which solution
wanna
is
be an
best.
engineer.
The engineer is,
But I didn't know if we were gonna have, like, for X dollars, we can do this, or if you want the slimmed down version, you want the standard, this is what we can do for this amount of money, or if you want the deluxe model, this is what you get. So, I'm gonna recap it again, just so I know when I push the button, what I'm gonna do. We're gonna either approve or decline this engineering contract.
Right.
The engineer's going to make a suggestion, the staff is going to be heavily involved. At the time the engineer comes back with his recommendations, the council will decide to either proceed or not proceed. It's either a yes, no, there's no,
right.
can you kind of do something else situation to it. So, never mind, forget that last sentence, I don't want to muddy the water more. Never
Well,
mind.
it's, yeah, okay. I'll leave it at that then. It's, when we bring street
But
projects
I'm
to
glad
y'all,
we had this-
y'all typically don't get into, are the curbs 3 inches or
Except
5,
when they're painted blue and
that type of minutia, you guys typically don't get into, and I'm not
No.
sure that's best for y'all to get
Well,
involved in
no,
that.
but I do think it's important for us, because I missed an important piece of that based off our conversation from Tuesday night when we discussed this in executive session. I thought he was bringing back recommendations, and we were at that point going to decide
No, my
what we were going to do.
No, my expectation is that he will be evaluating it, looking at different options, and he will design a solution based on his professional opinion, what's needed. He is going to make a determination of what's needed.
So I can make
He
a
will-
more informed vote. Thank you.
He will have a final product to bring to us, and then he will help us bid it out.
And I believe the executive session we were in was Monday night.
Well, maybe I dreamed about it Tuesday night, but anyway, we were in an executive
Okay.
session where we discussed this.
It only seemed like Tuesday night. I saw somebody light up down here. Was there some?
That was
comments or
me, Mayor,
questions?
but I think y'all hashed it out, and
Okay.
I would just be repeating
Okay,
things. So.
thank you. Then is there any other questions or comments or discussion from the dais? Then I'm going to go ahead.
Let me add
Okay.
one
All right.
one final
Okay.
thing, and I'm repeating myself. The city's infrastructure, the investment that we have in there is very, very important. It's important that we protect it and preserve it as best we can. The benefit to the homeowners is, that's a sideline. And again, we want to, trying to help, but I guess I'm being a little selfish. I'm looking out for what we can do. I don't want to have the misconception that we're swooping in, trying to help 8, 10, I think we've identified 11 properties we're going to be trying to grapple with, that we're doing this whole thing for 11 properties. That is a side benefit. It's, if we sit by and do nothing, which, as the mayor alluded to, is an option, if we sit by and do nothing, I cannot tell this council that our infrastructure is immediately in danger. It is not. I cannot say that the infrastructure will not be in danger in 6 months or 12 months. I don't know because of the instability of that creek bed up there on the north side. I don't know. And because of that doubt, if it may take 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. It may happen next week, next month. You just don't know. But if it does happen and we've done nothing, that's going to be a problem, a very, very expensive problem to fix. I would much rather grapple with it now and deal with it now, and I think we've got a way to do it. And that's
All right.
my side comment.
That's it. Okay, thank you. Then I'm going to open up and let the public make comments or ask questions. Is there anyone in the audience that has some questions or comments? Seeing none, then I'll ask one more time. Is there any other questions, any other clarification that needs to happen up here at the dais so we are fully informed and know what we're voting on? Oh, okay, Mr. Watkins. I didn't move fast enough to.
Bob Watkins.
Yeah.
6140 Blues Spruce Circle. Does any of this preclude the fact that somewhere down the road that the state or the federal government or FEMA or fairy godmother or somebody's going to come in and reimburse us for something? I mean, I realize that I'm all for this, doing it right now. I'm interested in knowing if that's going to, because I believe that we're taking care of a problem, we y'all are taking care of a problem that needs to be taken care of immediately, if not sooner. And that we can't sit around and wait the rest of our lives to see if somebody else is going to come in and bail us out, because it's liable to take 5. The people that have gotten up and spoken have said that, you know, if in any way you look at it, it's going to take 5 or 10 years. I'm just interested in knowing, is that going to, if we get out there and fix this problem, are we ever going to have any regress to go back and approach anybody else for it, or are we just pay it and going down the road?
I know that we've looked at that, and I'm not aware of any guarantees.
Oh, I know.
I
I want to know if somebody had any thoughts on it. I mean,
absolutely.
is it guaranteed
Absolutely.
that we won't get it? That's
No, it's not guaranteed, but we've, the council has talked to me about that, and I've certainly realized the possibility of that. And that's all it is right now, is just a possibility. And basically, let me restate what you've said, just to make sure I understand it. What you're getting at is that, are we going to be if we do this work, is this going to be credited towards any future work we may have to do in the creek through the Corps or FEMA? Is that basically what you were asking?
I suppose. I'm just. I've been to all the meetings, and I've heard them get up and say, well, I think the figure was 2 to 5 years before somebody would get around to this, you know, and I feel real bad about what we've got, but, you know, we've got Katrina and California falling off in the creek, and so there's a lot of problems out there for the federal government to be worrying about. Mm-hmm. But I would if I was up there voting, I'd vote yes for this proposal. I would just be interested in knowing if somewhere down the line we can say, well, you know, this is a FEMA situation.
Well, it's not so much a FEMA situation as it's probably a Corps of Engineer situation. And the Corps is going to be involved because we're going to have to get 404 permit to do this stuff. So the Corps is going to get an opportunity to help, and that's about all that they've said they'd be able to do, is to help us with this 404 permit and expedite it. Now we'll give them the opportunity to come through with what they said. But you know, any work that's going to be happening in there 2 to 5 years, I think, is a bit optimistic. Because I've heard the same thing. I don't have a lot of realistic expectation that's going to happen. But I'm not sure that's going to. Anything we do now is going to get credited towards that. But we will be pursuing that, and and
Yeah,
start
I
pursuing that
think that was
now,
the- I
but
think
not
that
at the
was the
time
question.
that this happens, but we'll be pursuing that now with the Corps that, and the COG, to at least put the idea in their heads that we're stepping out and doing this now. We don't, on some levels, the city has no legal obligation to do this.
Right.
We're,
I
we're doing it as a,
I think
as
we
a
have- I think we
preventive
have-
measure.
I think we have a moral obligation, but I think what you're talking about, the street, the infrastructure, the thing, if it just keeps going, I mean, I doubt if it's gonna go plumb to Keller, but it's not gonna stop very quick. It just depends on how far back it's gonna go.
It's
It's just a thought.
a very good thought.
It's like in my line of work, I want somebody to owe me if they owe me forever,
Sure.
I want it written down someplace that we have done something that wasn't our actual place to do, and would be real nice if you ever get $1 to send it our way.
We are going to be pointing that out to them now, and we'll be reminding them of that for many years to come.
I'm in contact with some of those people, and I'll be
Okay.
telling them every day.
Good.
Told one of them at lunch today, matter of fact.
Mr. Hutchison.
In sort of an answer to your question also, Mr. Watkins, I think part of the factor that weighs into my vote for this particular proposal is that they are, after the study was issued and they told us about it in August and then again came and told us about it again in October. I'm convinced that it's going to take, because it's going to take several years for them to come through with not just a solution, but with an actual getting in and dirt flying, because it's part of an overall watershed problem that they're studying as a whole. And I don't really care whether this shows good faith to them that we're doing this now. We're trying to take care of our community, and I think that's probably it's worth it to go ahead and do that now. And then, as Mr. Muir and as the mayor have already said, go ahead and push them on that issue for years to come. Look, we've stepped out. We believe that this is absolutely. We'll do what it takes here to help our community and to make sure other people see that we're committed to that. I'm appreciative of the people of the city of Haltom City for their patience thus far, and also for helping us out and agreeing to do this, because this is going to be a financial obligation, and it's not something that you anticipate, but we know that we've got some problems, some drainage problems, and especially some erosion problems here in Haltom City.
Thank you, sir. Look like there's someone else in the audience who wants to speak. Carl, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Carl Grasso, 5752 Bridgeport Court. All of us have been on a journey since this early spring with the erosion, things happening to properties that we all wish hadn't happened. I would probably like to say on behalf of those that have endured some loss, our thanks to the mayor, to the city manager, and to the council members who have had to deal with sticky issues, the private, the public, all those parts that we in the neighborhood haven't had to deal with those same issues as you have. We are grateful to all of you. And I was encouraged with Mr. Watkins' support that my fellow Haltom City resident is behind us too. And I think that speaks a bit of the Haltom City nature of who we are. And I apologize for being a resident of this city for some time. And it would take something like this to get to know all of you and the capabilities of our city council, its mayor and city manager, of what you folks face and what you're able to do. And we're thankful for each one of you. God bless you people.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to speak in a public forum? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and entertain a motion to dispose. Mr. Hutchison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that we accept, let me turn here, the proposal for the DIOT Incorporated Design Erosion Control Improvements for the affected area that has been made on agenda item number 4 for the cost of the fiscal impact, of course, $178,188.
Thank you. Had a three-way tie for the next one. I'm going to call on Ms. Reese.
Thank you so much. In this first second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the authorization of professional services agreement with DIOT Engineering. Any further discussion? Please register your vote. And that is unanimous. Mr. Sutton, can you hear me? Would you please join us again? Yeah. Yeah. All right. Next item on the agenda is the attendance requirement. We do have a member absent tonight. Ms. Bransom.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that we excuse Mr. Clark from tonight's meeting.
Mr. Sutton.
That's for a second.
Been moved and seconded to excuse Mr. Clark for his absence. Please register your vote. That is unanimous. We will now move into executive session under authority of Section 551-072 and 071 and 072, I believe it is. We'll get, yeah. And we will meet at 7:40. We'll go into executive session. We are re-adjourning in regular session at 7:54 to take action on what was discussed in executive session. I now entertain a motion. Mr. Sutton.
Okay. I'll move to approve resolution number R-2007-026-01.
Mr. Hutchison.
That's for a second, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Bransom.
Mine's a third.
Okay. Been moved and seconded to approve resolution R 2007-026-07. Is it 01? 01, excuse me. Any further discussion? Please register your vote. That is unanimous. There's no other action to take. This meeting is adjourned.